All right, let's talk about a problem that so many of us in the tech world have run into. You know the one. You've got your Windows machine, your workflow is perfect, you love it, but all the best development and DevOps tools, they're built for Linux. It's a classic developer's dilemma. So what do, right? Do you spin up some clunky, slow virtual machine that eats all your RAM? Do you get adventurous and partition your drive to dual boot? Or do you just give up and try to find some Windows native tool and hope it works? This is the core conflict we're digging into. And let's be real here, especially in the world of DevOps, Linux is king. I mean, we're talking Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible. They are all native to Linux. Trying to work around that feels like you're constantly swimming upstream. It's just the way things are in the modern tech landscape. But what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could have both? Well, that's where the Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL, comes in. And look, this isn't some clunky emulator or a half-baked compatibility layer. Microsoft literally built a full, genuine Linux kernel that runs right inside Windows. It's their shockingly elegant answer to this exact problem. You know, when you first hear about it, WSL can feel a bit like the imposter in the room, just like this meme kind of suggests. But it very quickly proves itself, sitting there happily next to the other operating systems, giving you that incredible best of both worlds feeling. And getting started? It honestly couldn't be easier. You just pop open an administrator PowerShell, type WSL-install, hit enter, and that's it. Windows just handles everything. It enables the right features, downloads the Linux kernel, and even installs a default Ubuntu distro for you. It is remarkably simple. Okay, so you've got it installed. Now what's the dream setup? Well, there are 4 key tools that, when you put them together, create an absolute powerhouse of a development environment. You've got the Windows terminal for a fantastic command line experience, Git for your version control, VS Code as your editor, and of course, Docker for all your container needs. That's a pro-level workstation right there. And the integration is really the secret sauce here. With the remote development extension in VS Code, you can be buried deep in your Linux terminal, you find your project folder, and you just type code dot. That's code space period. And boom, it seamlessly opens that entire project in a full-featured VS Code window. It honestly feels like magic the first time you do it. Now here's a pro tip that's gonna save you so many headaches. Instead of having to log into GitHub on Windows and then again separately inside WSL, you can make them share credentials. You just tell the Git inside Linux to use the Git credential manager from your main Windows install, and you only have to log in once. It's a game changer. Docker integration is just as slick. You install Docker Desktop for Windows, and then you go into the settings. You literally just check 2 boxes, and it's all set up to use the WSL2 engine. That means you can run all your Docker commands right from your Linux terminal, and it all just works. Okay, this all sounds a little too perfect, doesn't it? A seamless, powerful Linux environment living inside Windows? There's gotta be a catch, and well, there is. As your projects get more and more complex, you start to feel a little bit of friction. And the number one biggest pain point for almost every WSL user comes down to one word: networking. See, by default, WSL2 kind of acts like its own little computer behind a router. It has its own internal IP address, totally separate from your main Windows IP address. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, it means if you're running a web server inside WSL and you want your friend on the same Wi-Fi to see it, they can't. You have to run these super long, complicated commands like this net shell one just to manually forward the traffic from Windows to Linux. It's a total pain. But the good news is Microsoft heard the complaints loud and clear. They've recently introduced a brand new feature called mirrored networking mode, and this thing completely changes the game. It basically makes your Linux environment share the exact same network connection as Windows, getting rid of that whole separate IP problem. And I mean, the difference is just night and day. With the old way, you're constantly fighting with separate IPs and setting up port forwarding. With mirrored mode, everything just works on local host. You get direct access from your local network, and it even plays way nicer with VPNs. The big takeaway here is that Microsoft is actively fixing these issues, which is great to see. But then, what if you don't want to deal with any of this complexity at all? This quote from a developer who finally switched from WSL to just running native Ubuntu really says it all. For some kinds of work, the pure simplicity of a native environment just feels magical. So what was that magic moment for them? It was working with Kubernetes. On WSL, you're almost always having to run the kubectl port forward command just to tunnel traffic from a service in your cluster to your machine so you can see it in a web browser. On native Linux, you can often just access it directly. That is a massive reduction in day-to-day friction. So let's just put it all side by side. On native Ubuntu, you get full raw networking. You get complete support for systemd, which is how Linux manages services. Docker runs natively without needing the Docker desktop layer. Kubernetes is just smoother. And file access is way faster than when you're trying to reach across from Linux into your Windows files. So here's the bottom line. WSL is an absolutely amazing piece of technology. It is perfect for lightweight scripting, running simple command line tools, or for people who just need a quick bash shell. But when you start getting into heavy production-grade DevOps workflows, especially with a lot of Kubernetes and complex networking, a native Linux environment just removes an entire layer of potential problems and workarounds. At the end of the day, it's your choice. It all comes down to your specific workflow. Are you going to embrace the amazing convenience and tight integration of WSL install? Or do you need the raw, unfiltered power of a dedicated Linux machine? The right answer is whichever one lets you build what you need to build with the least amount of friction. So, what's your next move going to be?